What's up, guys? Welcome back to True Crime Unchained, a podcast where we unravel Florida's most haunting mysteries. I'm Tim. I'm your host from Estero, Florida. And today we step into a nightmare that lasted 37 years, the story of Robert DuBoise. He was a young Tampa man wrongfully convicted of a savage rape and murder. Junk science like bite mark analysis, which is now universally discredited, and a crooked informant sealed his fate. But DNA did eventually set him free and exposed the real killers. This case isn't just about this one guy's living hell. It's also a warning on how pseudoscience just poisons justice. So let's dive in. So it's August 19th, 1983 in Tampa. It's if you know what it's like in August in Tampa, the summer heat is heavy. It's like a blanket. It's just so humid and it's so hot, even at night. And 19-year-old Barbara Grams wraps up her shift at a dental office on Pearl Avenue. Around 11 p.m., she heads out back and just vanishes. The next morning, her body is discovered in a nearby alley. She's been brutally beaten to death, sexually assaulted, and she's got a strange mark on her cheek that police immediately label a bite mark. Neighbors recalled hearing screams, but no witnesses came forward. So for some reason, Tampa PD fixates on Robert DuBoise. He's a 20-year-old local with a minor prior record for things like burglary. But why him? Well, a self-proclaimed bite mark expert from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Dr. Richard Souveron, examines the mark and declares that it matches DuBois' teeth, a claim that would propel this flawed science to the forefront of the case with absolutely devastating results. So let's take a pause here and unpack bite mark analysis, because this pseudoscience was the cornerstone of DuBois' conviction, and it's wrecked countless lives. In the 80s, experts like Souveron claimed they could match teeth impressions on skin or objects to a specific person with courtroom certainty. Sounds like high tech, right? It's not. Bite mark forensics relies on subjective visual comparisons. No objective measurements, no error rates established. Skin stretches, it distorts, it swells after trauma, making patterns unreliable. In fact, the 2009 National Academy of Sciences report slammed it. Zero validation or studies proving uniqueness, analysts disagreeing 10 to 30% on basic matches. So by 2016, Obama's PCAST echoed that it's not even forensic science, more like junk dressed in a lab coat. DuBois' case, Souveron testified that the cheek mark was a human bite from his upper teeth, ignoring animal scavenging, which is common outdoors in Florida. It turns out during re-examination in 2020 showed it was non-human. No dental uniqueness at all. Yet, juries ate it up, leading to 24 U.S. convictions overturned since Florida banned bite mark evidence in court by 2023 reforms, but that was too late for DuBois. So we're going to go back to 1985 to DuBois' trial. Prosecutors have shit in hard evidence. No fingerprints, no eyewitnesses. This is pre-DNA era. Just that now debunked bite mark and a jailhouse informant named Edward James, who claims that DuBois confessed in their cell. Edward James, he's facing his own charges, and they got dropped entirely for testifying, a case of classic incentivized perjury. The jury was swayed by the quote-unquote expert, and they convict on first-degree murder and rape. Dubois gets a death sentence handed down, and this is about the time where public outrage peaks. Um, Governor Lawton Chiles commuted him to life in prison in 1995 amid appeals. So Barbara Graham's family grieves, and they believe that justice was served while Dubois rots in this prison, and he's maintained his innocence from day one. So Dubois, from prison, he's been fighting relentlessly. Habeas petitions, pro bono lawyers, media pleas, everything gets denied. He loses decades, prime years, family milestones. And then in 2018, a turning point. The Innocence Project of Florida partners with Hillsborough State Attorney's Conviction Review Unit. They hunt evidence, they found pristine autopsy slides with semen samples, which were miraculously preserved, even though it was a sloppy storage. And then Bode Technology tests it in 2022, and Dubois is excluded completely. The DNA profile matches Curtis Hollingsworth, a serial rapist already serving 25 years for prior assaults, and Joseph James Robinson, imprisoned for another Tampa murder. Hollingsworth and Robinson, they were friends with violent histories, and they terrorized the area back then. So August 27th, 2020, Dubois, now 57, walks free after 37 years. The fourth longest imprisonment in wrongful imprisonment in U.S. history. He gets full exoneration on September 14th. He gets $1.85 million from the state of Florida, which was approved in 2023. And then he got $14 million from the city of Tampa, which was approved in February of 2024 as a civil rights / wrongful conviction settlement with the city and its police. Sounds great, right? The thing is, Dubois is lucky he got compensation at all. People in states with no statute have to sue police or prosecutors or seek a special one-off bill, which is long, expensive, and far from guaranteed. So earlier Innocence Project work on the first 250 DNA exonerees found roughly 60% got some form of compensation, but about half of those had to get it through lawsuits or special legislation rather than automatic statutes. So what we see is with people like Robert Dubois, who actually end up with multi-million-dollar packages combined from the state and the city, they're kind of the exception and not the rule. Most exonerees either get nothing or get far less than the federal model standard of $50,000 per year locked up. People are locked up for crimes they didn't commit all the time. And a lot of them don't even get full exoneration, even though they've been exonerated through things like DNA or proven innocent through things like DNA. Many times they give them time served, or they give them an Alford plea in lieu of exoneration, meaning that many of them still have criminal records. So the National Registry of Exonerations reports about 3,646 exonerations from 1989 through the end of 2024. So get this. Those people collectively lost more than 27,000 years in prison for crimes they didn't commit. Of these, around 375 exonerations have involved DNA evidence, specifically, it's like a subset of the total. Texas, Illinois, New York, and California lead the nation in total exonerations since 1989, which kind of reflects both population size and investigative efforts like conviction review units. So the real killers were charged in September 2021 for Graham's murder. And get this shit. Robinson not only confesses to her killing, but to a second killing that same night. Karen Lutman was beaten blocks away, and there was DNA that linked them to it. So Hollingsworth ends up dying in prison in November 2021 before the trial. Robinson pleads guilty and he gets a life sentence. Somehow, DuBoise forgives the people that locked him up, including the so-called expert, and he just says, "I don't hate eats you up." So you got the bite mark bullshit, you got the snitch payoffs, and then just the tunnel vision. Now, what did this actually do? It let the fucking real killers go. They got to roam around for years after that, before they were caught for other shit. Florida now mandates DNA retesting, informant corroboration, and pseudoscience bans spurred by cases like this. Robert DuBois' odyssey from death row to freedom shows like persistence and how science can right wrongs, but at a terrible cost. The Innocence Project has freed 375 people nationwide, and Florida leads with 39 exonerations. So if you're like me and you're gripped by these injustices, subscribe to my True Crime Unchained channel and share your thoughts. Join me next week on our next Sunshine State Shocker, where I'm going to discuss the flat tire murders of Miami-Dade County. Stay vigilant, question the experts. From Estero, Florida. Peace.